Here we are.
Thank you, Damayanti.
So yeah, Canto 3, Chapter 1, Text 31, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Okay. Chit. We'll do the word. Well, I'll chant the verse and then I'll do the word for word after.
It's 31.
Mhm.
31 starts with Shema on my.
What was it?
31 starts with Shema.
Oh, yes, you're right. Okay. Shemam sakachid yudhana aste.
Shemam sakachid yudhana aste.
Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Lebhenja sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Lebhenja sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Gatim tadiyam yati birdurapam.
Gatim tadiyam yati birdurapam.
Shemam sakachid yudhana aste.
Shemam sakachid yudhana aste.
Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Lebendra sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Lebendra sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Gatim tadiyam yati birdurapam.
Gatim tadiyam yati birdurapam.
Shemam sakachid yudhana aste.
Shemam sakachid yudhana aste.
Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Lebhendra sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Lebhendra sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Gatim tadiyam yati birdurapam.
Gatim tadiyam yati birdurapam.
Chant.
Shemam sakachit yudhana aste.
Shemam sakachid yudhana aste.
Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Lebhendra sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Lebhendra sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Gatim tadiyam yati birdurapam.
Gatim tadiyam yati birdurapam. Shemam sakachid yudhana aste.
Shemam sakachit yudhana aste.
Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Lebhendra sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Lebhendra sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Gatim tadiyam yati birdurapam.
Gatim tadiyam yati birdurapam.
Shemam sakachid yudhana aste.
Shemam sakachid
yudhana aste. Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Lebhendra sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Lebhendra sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Gatim tadiyam yati birdurapam.
Gatim tadiyam yati birdurapam.
Shemam sakachid yudhana aste.
Kshemam sakachid yudhana aste.
Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Yapal gunau labdhadanu rahasya.
Lebhendra sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Lebhendra sadhok sajaseva yaiva.
Gatim
Gatim Tadiyam Yati Vidurapam.
Shema Sachadid Yudana Aste.
Shemam Sakachid Yudhana Aste.
Yapaguna Labda Danu Rahasya.
Yapaguna Labda Danu Rahasya.
Leve Jasadu Saja Seva Yavai.
Lepin Jasaduk Sajaseva.
Gatim Tadiyam Yati Vidurapam.
Gatim Tadiyam Yati Vidurapam.
Shemam Sakachi Yudana Aste.
Shemam Sakachid Yudhana Aste. Yapau Gunala Tratanu Rahasya. Lepin Jasadhok Sajasevayaiva. Gatim Tadiyam Yati Vidurapam.
Shemam Sakachid Yudhana Aste.
Shemam Sakachid Yudhana Aste.
Yapaguna Labdanu Rahasya.
Yapau Gunala Tratanu Rahasya. Lepin Jasadhok Sajasevayaiva. Gatim Tadiyam Yati Vidurapam. Anyone online like to chant the verse? Word for word. Shemam. All good. Sa. He. Kachit. Weather. Yudhana. Satyaki. Aste. Is there. Ya. One who. Falgunat. From Arjuna. Labdha. Has achieved. Dhanu Rahasya. One who understands the intricacies of military art. Lebhe. Also achieved. Anjasa. Summarily. Thank you. Adhoksaja. Of the transcendence. Sevayam. By service. Eva. Certainly. Gatim. Destination. Tadiyam. Transcendental. Yatibi. By great renouncers. Durapam. Very difficult to achieve. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O Uddhava, does Yuyudhan fare well? He learned the intricacies of the military art from Arjuna and attained the transcendental destination, which is very difficult to reach, even for great renouncers. Would you like to repeat the verse? O Uddhava, does Yuyudhan fare well? He learned the intricacies of the military art from Arjuna and attained the transcendental destination, which is very difficult to reach, even for great renouncers. So Prabhupada's purport. The destination of transcendence is to become the personal associate of the personality of Godhead who is known as Adhokshaja, he who is beyond the reach of the senses. The renouncers of the world, the sannyasis, give up all worldly connections, namely family, wife, children, friends, home, wealth, everything, to attain the transcendental bliss of Brahman happiness. But Adhokshaja happiness is beyond Brahman happiness. The empiric philosophers enjoy a transcendental quality of bliss by philosophical speculation on the supreme truth. But beyond that pleasure is the pleasure enjoyed by Brahman in his eternal form as of the personality of Godhead. Brahman bliss is enjoyed by living entities after liberation from material bondage. But Para-Brahman, the personality of Godhead, enjoys eternally a bliss of his own potency, which is called the Hladini potency. The empiric philosopher who studies Brahman by negation of the external features has not yet learned the quality of the Hladini potency of Brahman. Out of many potencies of the omnipotent, there are three features of his internal potency, namely Samvit, Santini, and Hladini. And in spite of their strict adherence to the principles of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Dhyan, Dharana, and Pranayama, the great yogis and jnanis are unable to enter into the internal potency of the Lord. This internal potency is, however, easily realized by the devotees of the Lord by dint of devotional service. Yudhan achieved this stage of life, just as he achieved expert knowledge in military science from Arjuna. Thus, his life was successful to the fullest extent from both the material and spiritual angles of vision. That is the way of devotional service to the Lord. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Before beginning, I'd like to ask the blessings of all the assembled devotees here and online and their lordships that I can speak something Krishna conscious in accordance with our Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta as given to us by Srila Prabhupada. So here, Srila Prabhupada is explaining the distinction between the destination of the impersonalists and the destination of the devotees. And the impersonalist destination, the Srila Prabhupada says here that the destination for the impersonals is also transcendental for at least one of the kinds of impersonalists, and they attain the transcendental bliss of Brahman happiness, and that the destination of the Brahman means attaining a oneness of Krishna's effulgence, which is this bliss, and it's explained in Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma Bhuta stage, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochati Nakankshati. So this type of liberation, attaining the Brahma Bhuta stage, is Nasochati Nakankshati. There's no hankering for gaining any things in the material world, or no lamenting for things that are to be lost or were lost in the past. And it's a stage or a existence of peace, tranquility, serenity. I guess those words are good to describe. And happiness. Though Srila Prabhupada is giving the distinction here that well, and this is attained by renunciates who give everything up. They give up everything. They give up the family, anything, and just to attain this state, to transcend, and they consider everything here as illusion. So even us sitting here, we're interacting with each other, we're driving cars and walking and talking and whatever we're doing, they'll consider it all an illusion and something to be given up and transcended for the Brahman bliss, the bliss of Brahman. And I was remembering this morning a pastime with Srila Prabhupada. Devotees were with Srila Prabhupada. I can't remember exactly where. Somewhere, a beautiful scenery is where they were, overlooking a beautiful scenery, and Prabhupada commented on it, the beautiful scenery. And one disciple remarked that, yes, it's all Maya, it's all illusion. Srila Prabhupada's response to that was, no. What if you painted a beautiful painting and I just said, oh, it's illusion. So we don't see our existence here in this world as an illusion. Prabhupada used the word illusory. Not an illusion, but illusory, meaning that it's temporary. It's all real. Our experience here is real. It's just temporary. It's not eternal. It's not our eternal occupation to be here in this world.
There's someone who's not.
Okay. So this type of renunciation that the impersonal sannyasis accept, of giving everything up, for devotees, it's a different kind of renunciation. And I was this verse came to mind. Sarvopati vinirmuktam tatrat sarvopati vinirmuktam tatpratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchate. So for us, this is coming from Srila Rupa Goswami Nectar Devotion. He gives us this verse, Sarvopati vinirmuktam, to give up all upadis. sarva upadi, all upadis should be given up. And upadis are designations that we accept in this world of whatever. I'm a teacher. I'm a therapist, or a salesman, or anything. A father, a husband, a wife. These designations we accept and identify with. So not that the externals need to be given up necessarily, but the identification of I am any identity in this world that's external, rather than the internal identity of Rishikena, Rishikesha, being engaging my senses in the service of the master of the senses. So the identity of Jivara Srupoi, Krishna and Nityadas, that I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. So not that I think external things need to be given up again, but internalizing this real deep understanding of eternally I'm a servant of Krishna. This is my actual eternal position. Just going through the purport here because there's so much. I was thinking I would just, for the class, I could just reread the purport over and over and over, and just glean so much from Srila Prabhupada here. And the bliss enjoyed by the devotees is it's like a vital and fresh and alive. It's not just some sense of not being or just being, or no, it's interactive, it's alive, and sometimes I just in myself I recognize myself fall into this kind of desire or this attempt to exist on the Brahman platform of just nothingness. Okay, my phone, I'm getting messages and calls, but just I don't really want to do that. I just want to be or be nothing, or just be and not interact. The problem is the soul is eternally active. So the soul can't exist in an inactive state eternally. And Prabhupada, he teaches us this in as the prayers of Lord Brahma, Vimuktamanina, that the impersonalists may have the idea that they're liberated, but because the soul is active, eventually that living entity will be engaged in one way, either coming back down to the material world. And Prabhupada gave so many examples that he said he witnessed himself personally. Yogis and sadhus, they would go to the Himalayas or to the mountains or the forest, and they'll meditate and they'll do real sadhana, real practice, and attain maybe even some cities, some mystic powers, and some sense of oneness with the supreme Brahman, with Brahman, with the supreme as Brahman. But he said it's also numerous times the yogis or sadhus, they come back down from the mountains and they engage in the material world again, whether it's philanthropy or altruistic activities. But in any case, they come back down to engage. So, bro, that Jagan Mithya, what's the verse there?
Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya.
Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. So this is like an aphorism that's accepted by impersonalists, that Brahma Satya, that the Brahman is truth or eternal. Jagan Mithya is the world is false. So Prabhupada would so if the world's false, then why come back to open schools and engage in the world in this way if it's false? And another point here Prabhupada makes is that the devotees are already on the Brahmabhuta's platform, already. And I was reminded of another, and this is actually the verse, the full verse, Brahmabhuta prasanatman sochatina kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. So for the devotee in devotional service, has already attained the Brahmabhuta stage. It's an automatic thing. It's not that one needs to do some kind of meditation to first realize Krishna as Brahman, and then do some yogic process to then realize Krishna as Paramatma in the heart. And then finally, now after doing those practices, now one can realize Krishna as Bhagavan. It's not like that. It's by like the example of watering the root of the tree, then everything's else is nourished, everything else is done. So by accepting the Bhagavan realization of the absolute, then Paramatma Brahman realization are encompassed within that. And I thought of another pastime. This was in Bombay. There was one gentleman who was very fond or even attached to Srila Prabhupada, and also had impersonal conceptions. And sometimes devotees couldn't really tell. They asked Prabhupada, is he impersonalist? Is he a devotee? And sometimes he would come, no, I'm a pure Vaishnava, I'm a devotee. And then other times he would argue with Prabhupada with some impersonal conception. And this was going on during the morning walks there with Prabhupada at Juhu Beach. But again, this person was really attached to Prabhupada and wanted to help the devotees and help Prabhupada. So he arranged for mosquito nets and different bedding materials and things like that for the devotees. Yeah, it was actually quite an endeavor for him to get all these things for the devotees. But he wanted to serve the devotees. He wanted the devotees to be comfortable and be free from worrying about mosquitoes coming while they're sleeping and getting on and miseries in this world. There's miseries caused by other living entities. So he wanted to assist in the devotees in that. But eventually he realized that the devotees had neglected all these things. They weren't using the mosquito nets. They were, or the bedding, the nice bedding, or whatever. They were just sleeping on the floor, or somehow the materials were neglected, and maybe a lot of it wasn't even. It was like, where did it go? So he was disturbed, and he went to Srila Prabhupada and was, expressing to Srila Prabhupada that I got all these nice things for the devotees, and they neglected it. Prabhupada's response was, yes, is because they don't care for these things. They don't care for these things. They don't care for comforts. They don't care for nice beds and all these things. He said, actually, that Brahman platform that you are so anxious to achieve, these devotees, they have already attained it. They've already attained it by serving Krishna. And of course, as we mature, we understand from Srila Prabhupada that we take care of what Krishna gives us, not to neglect it, but to take nice care. Prabhupada mentioned there, though, that he used it as an opportunity to make the point. I had a personal experience when I was 19, and I was seeking spirituality. And I ended up with my girlfriend at the time. We were both seeking for some spiritual substance in our life. We didn't really have much going on. We weren't going to college. We were kind of in the camp of, it's all rejectable. It's just detestable. There's nothing of substance in the world. People are just doing the same thing. It's like the hamster wheel going over and over, and politics and corruption. And I see right through it. I'm going to be different. I'm not going to engage in all these things like everyone else. I actually ended up realizing that I was actually doing the same thing as everyone else, just pretending like because it was in a different guise that I was different somehow. So ended up at a beautiful temple in Malibu, and there's a lake and a temple up like on a hill, and so we were there and walking around. It was very peaceful atmosphere, very calm, and eventually we made our way into the temple, and there was a lady there doing like teaching a meditation that was very calming, and I felt very peaceful. And just like Bhagavad Gita explains, Nasochati, Nakunkshati, I wasn't hankering for anything. I wasn't lamenting for anything I've lost. I felt in that moment just like liberated and just fine, just being and not just letting the mind go and being in that spiritual kind of atmosphere. Shortly after visiting that temple, I ended up at the Hare Krishna temple in Los Angeles. We had a mutual friend from high school become a brahmachari at the Hare Krishna temple. So he saw that, we were seeking spirituality, and so, oh, come, Bhagavad Gita, and just trying to encourage. And so eventually we ended up there. My experience there was, it was a lot different than at the temple in Malibu, the kind of peaceful. It was walked in the temple, it was immediately smelling incense and this elaborate altar with these forms. I didn't know what they were, but these forms that were nicely decorated with flowers and jewelry and colors and lights, and it was loud. Hare Krishna. It was very loud, and devotees are there, and it was devotees leading kirtan with wampers, and these young men in these orange robes dancing around in a circle and just really getting into it. And I was kind of in like a punk rock scene, so I was like, whoa, this is like transcendental moshing, just kind of going in circles and dancing with each other and swinging each other around, and again it was loud, but it was so blissful, and it was so awesome, and I had no need to go back to the temple in Malibu to get that peaceful kind of calming experience. I felt no need to go back there. I just stayed at the temple in Los Angeles. So yeah, it's a personal experience of, I was just reflecting on this principle that I could see in my own life of, in a sense of, devotees already attain, or it's already done. That Brahmabhuta stage is included. And then Prabhupada, he in the purport, he mentions the Hladini potency.
He dies. He explains, it's the internal potency of the Lord. And the yogis and jnanis, although they follow the yoga principles of yama, niyama, dharana, dhyan, asana, and all these pranayama, the breathing exercises, the stretching, only accepting certain things and not accepting, and they do this a very kind of strict practice. Even seen as more strict than the bodhis in terms of externally, more strict. And Prabhupada's making the point here that still they're still unable to enter the internal potency of the Lord.
They're not able to. And he says the internal potency is easily realized by the devotees by dint of devotional service. Easily realized. And so I wanted to refer to a verse here. And this is the 5th verse of the Adi Leela, Chaitanya Charitamrita. First chapter. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Hladini Shaktir Asmad Ekat Manav Abhibhuvi Pura Deha Bhedam Gatau Tau Chaitanyakyam Prakatam Adhuna Tad Twayam Chaikyam Aptam Radha Bhava Duty Suvalitam Nauma Krishna Swarupam. Translation. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separated themselves eternally. Now these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahe Anya. So in this age, Krishna comes, Radha and Krishna combine in this sense, in the sense that Krishna comes as Lord Chaitanya in the mood of Srimati Radharani, in the mood of the internal potency and pure compassion, and giving this opportunity for transcending even just the Brahman platform, just the topmost realization of the personality of Godhead. Kali Kali Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar, Nama Hoy Haite Jagata Nishtar. So in this age, the holy name, the Nam Avatar, and this is what referring to my experience of this Harinam Sankirtan, experiencing that, and this all-encompassing spiritual practice and path. That's simple, but most sublime. It's very simple and most sublime. So I think I'll open up for discussion now, to hear from anyone online and any of us here. Vladini. Vladini.
Thank you very much for the class, Jivan Mukta, Prabhu. I appreciated the point you made about like the illusion and illusory. Actually, till now, I was perplexed about it because I just never made the distinction. So that was very highlighting for me. And I also like your personal experience very much. That was fun. It's like the big contrast of and then at the beginning when you like asked for the blessings of the devotees, that was also interesting for me because I have the tendency to like put everyone down, you know, and if like someone, I don't know, if someone doesn't give a good class, then I'm better, you know. But then you ask for it, I'm like, yeah, of course, like I want to give you all the blessings because I want to hear something that's helpful for me. So there was like transformation right at the first sentence you have said. So I appreciated that. Hare Krishna.
There's a hand up online.
Okay. Have Gajendra Prabhu.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for class. Quickly comment. I was really amused in the part you're talking about being in Malibu and then coming and finding the devotees in their mosh pit type kirtan. And I just kept on thinking, the Mayavadis are so boring. They're just so boring. It's really appreciating, sort of, that little bit of presentation. It's amusing. Thank you for that in the morning.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
But it's not really clear.
Wonderful. Good.
I don't think I fully understand like the internal potency of the Lord. Then if you could just speak more about that, I don't think I fully get it.
Me either. We're working on it.
Me neither, I don't think.
Well, here in the purport, let's see how Srila Prabhupada is explaining it here.
What is it that
The-
the devotees get and the impersonal is done?
Yes, that's the.
No, that was the question. I rephrased the question.
Yeah. Well, that's a good that's an angle that Ladini Mataji brought up here of the internal potency is what the devotees get and the impersonalists don't. The pleasure giving potency.
So there's not as much pleasure in like impersonalism.
Certainly not. No, it's more of a sense of it's a bliss and it's there's some pleasure, but it's not the same pleasure of the internal potency. I am going to request Dear Govinda Prabhu or Mother Malini to elaborate on Casey's question of what is the internal potency.
I can start.
Please.
Well, there is in the light of Bhagavatam, there is it's a very different books, and there Srila Prabhupada speak about our internal potency, and he give an example, and he give also a way to relate to Krishna's internal potency. So our internal potency can be seen as our internal life, the lives that cannot be taken away by anything, like a life that's always come to a place of the absolute truth that we can have within ourselves. And Srila Prabhupada in that book, he said, when we connect there, we connect with the internal energy of the Lord too. So we have our internal energy and Krishna with internal energy. Or like if we put it in a covers, in a sense, it's like a gross example, but Stephen Covey gives example of the circle of concern and the circle of influence. And so when we are really connected with our circle of influence within ourselves, connected with Krishna, we are connected with our internal energy and the internal energy of Krishna. And the internal energy of Krishna is manifested. The internal and external energy of Krishna manifest is bliss, is enjoyment, and that's why it's called Ladini. However, our enjoyment, our desire to enjoy, separated from Krishna, kind of manifest is external energy. And that's how his external energy exists. His external energy, in fact, exists only in connection with the conditioned soul. Okay, well, that's a start.
Hare Krishna, I appreciate the discussion. Yeah, so as far as like the bliss level of happiness, well, it's described as like the Brahman happiness is millions of times greater than material happiness, even the greatest material happiness. And that Brahman happiness is not even a drop in the ocean of bhakti happiness, the internal energy. And so the Brahman happiness, in a sense, it's not really happiness. It's relief from misery. It's relief from misery. And you quoted the verse, Nashochatina Kanchati, like no hankering for trying to control the future to be this way or that way. No lamenting that in the past and like that. Just like this. So it's the relief from material misery, and so it results from true understanding that material, like, and I'm going to borrow that distinction, illusion and illusory, because that really helped me, that linguistic distinction. So the material energy, it's illusory, but it's not illusory. It's real. The energy is real, but the way I perceive it, and I said, this is real energy, but yeah, I am this body, like that. The way I perceive it is illusory, but the inner property is it's an eternal energy. And so negation of the material is not spiritual. Still, true negation of material, realizing its illusory nature, that is a spiritual achievement, but it's intrinsically not a spiritual happiness. It's more relief from material misery. And then in bhakti, that's the internal energy. Bhakti is the internal energy. That's then that's the spiritual happiness of the soul, engaging in spiritual relationships with Sri Krishna, personality, Godhead in the center. The central point, you quoted that verse, Prasya Shakti Vividaiva Shruyate. So that means like the absolute has infinite energies. And so that's a distinction. That's very bhakti. Because the Brahman, and also as you mentioned, that there's different realizations of there's different aspects of the absolute. The Brahman is one of those aspects. And as we discussed in some recent classes and discussions, that Srila Prabhupada or Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, when they get like really heavy, it's not like if someone's achieving Brahman realization, that's a wonderful thing actually, compared to indulgence in the illusion of matter. But when those who are going through towards the Brahman, and they appreciate that aspect of absolute, but when they deny the personality of God, the personality of Krishna, we did that example the other day. It's like we have a dear friend, and someone says, "Oh, your dear friend doesn't really exist. Your dear friend can't walk, can't talk." It's very insulting. And so, yes, and so that so the Supreme has energies, because the Brahma bodies or the Maya bodies, for the most part, they say the absolute there's no differentiation, there's no energies. It's all that oneness, right? Whereas no, there's oneness in that it's all spirit, but there's spiritual variety. There's wampurs and there's kartals and there's mridangas, and it's all real and it's spiritual in kirtan for Krishna. So I mean, this is like an essential point in this discussion, that the Supreme, the absolute, has diverse energies. Well, when we come to realization, we'll realize it's all one. No, then the energies, then the internal, because like material energy, I appreciate that story where Prabhupada said, no, this is beauty. Okay. And it's also true that the spiritual variety is even much more alive than the spiritual variety. But we don't want to denigrate the material variety. I mean, Krishna has painted amazing pictures, and the spiritual variety is even more beautiful, much more. And so just like, so there's different energies, and sometimes they're categories in one, the categories even as two rather than just their spiritual and material. Okay, then sometimes categorized as three: spiritual, material, and marginal. Tatasta Shakti. And then, okay, then here we have, okay, within the spiritual means internal. Within the internal, then there's like Ladini, Samvit, Sandini. In Caprica, then there's sometimes divided into 16. And then again, sometimes Prabhupada quotes the Sri Sampradaya and gets into the Bhu, the Nila, and the Sri. It's quite intricate, but it's actually infinite. And then there's a material energy. The material energy sometimes divided into 16. There's sound, form, sometimes divided into 24. It can actually be unlimited nuances. And that sometimes we want to get into the complexities, and sometimes we want to simplify. Energy indicates kind of like the feminine principle, the feminine principle. And so both the material and spiritual energy, the spiritual energy, it's I might say the source is Srimati Radharani, of course, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayani. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in the form of Radha and Krishna combined. And so an example given is like, let's say there's a king. There's a king. And right, so then there's the queen, and then there's a maidservant. And so the maidservant represents like Maya, the material energy. And the maidservant is completely dedicated to serving the king. Srishti Stiti Pralaya Saradana Shakti Ekachaya Yasya Ubanani Bibaki Dogi Chanarupama Yasya Chatistakesa Govindamadi Pusham Tamaham Bhajami. That Maya, Durga, Kali, that's different names of the same supreme demigoddess of she's the warden of the prison house of the material energy. So she's simply serving Krishna. And the queen's also serving the king. The difference is that that the queen has these like intimate relations with the king. In fact, the queen can control the king. Many in the kingdom know who's really running the show here. Right? It's often that way. So the queen has a lot of influence. And so when we engage in bhakti, then we're connected with the queen, with that intimate energy. So the maidservant is also doing important service, but it's not as intimate. So to the extent that, so if we're just engaged in increasing our material desires, we're still we're still within Krishna's plan, but in a way that we're immersed in the external. We're immersed in the external energy. Bhakti is the internal energy, where it's just like and that's intimate, very personal.
Can one simplify it by saying that the internal energy is spiritual energy and the external energy is a material energy? To like sometimes Prabhupada makes things really simple, and starting to have a relationship with that concept of spiritual energy, because it's internal energy is a lot, and then it's a different experience to connect with that than the external energy with beings and material energy.
Is the internal energy like feminine?
Yes. Yeah, it's Srimati Radharani. And I like your point, Mami, that we probably have reports that we also have internal and external, just like that they're proper. So there's there could be like a big corporate magnate like that, a big business person, and that so well, few examples there. But Pablo gives the example that someone wanted to see this big important person, maybe a politician, or in the financial world. And with this, and so the secretary said, okay, well, he's busy right now, we need to wait. So the secretary wasn't looking after a long time. He peeked in the door. He peeked in the door, and this big important person was playing horsey for his 3-year-old son. Okay, so so he has his you know, you might say he has his relatively more external relationships about, you know, the contract he's going to sign, the business deals. But the relationship with the son, this is his pastime. This is what that's like his internal energy. Like that. So because this is all just about love and affection. And this isn't profit motivated. This is all about love and affection. So yeah, so we have different energies, and so does Sri Krishna. You see a hand up on one. I think
Oh, well, we have two.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's Parampara.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Jivan Mukta Prabhu, for your class. And I just wanted to resonate with what you shared in your class. I think Gajendra kind of said it too, like the impersonalists are boring. I just wanted to resonate that with my, my experience of there's a local temple here, Temple of the Universe, that's like, it's pretty loose, universal, whatever. It would, I'm sure it could be classified as Mayavadi, but not even that. It's like more loose than that, not even like impersonal. But so and so I would like to go there. And I would like to go there. And then I would go there in the morning, and then I would go, and they would do kirtan there also. They would do kirtan there. And then even Hare Krishna kirtan, they did other songs and stuff like that. But then I would go to the temple afterwards. And I was like, this kirtan's much better. This kirtan's much better. So, but then it was like the talks, the philosophical talks at the Temple of the Universe, the kind of Mayavadi, those were much more comfortable. Those were much more enjoyable to me, especially as a newcomer, And so there's that part too of it, of like, yeah, the impersonal, maybe it's like more comfortable. Oh yeah, everything's one. I don't really need to do anything or change anything, or I can just, enjoy or whatever, whatever it is. And but then like the devotees talks were like more uncomfortable, and even like Prabhupada's books, more uncomfortable. But then I would be attracted to them. They're like there's transformation happening there. Transformation is uncomfortable. So I just wanted to resonate with that experience. And then and also, and this with the distinction between impersonal liberation versus like the positive, bhakti, bliss. And so something that helps me in my mind, that works for me, I connect to emotionally also, even though it's just numbers. And just like we're speaking, like, okay, so relief from material misery, that's like impersonal liberation. Relief from material, that's like 0, and like, so anything, so really we're like negative, like we're like these big negative numbers here, like material, conception. And then so impersonal liberation, that's like 0. And so it's like, if we're like in extreme debt, and like we have like a big debt, we don't have any net worth, it's like negative net worth, big debt. And then we like were to pay off all that debt, there's like a huge freedom, huge liberation there. Like, I'm debt free. This is amazing. I don't have any debts. There's a huge liberation, huge freedom that comes with that. But still, I don't have any positive net worth. I'm just at 0 now. But still, that's a huge liberation. And then from there, can actually build some kind of positive, net worth. And so that's what I think, bhakti, that through anything else, all we can hope to is become, kind of get to 0, debt free in a sense, and then to actually like have any kind of positive spiritual wealth, then we need, bhakti, like personalism. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hand raise.
Okay, we have
Yeah, I really enjoyed the description that you gave of like, oh, somebody paints a beautiful painting, we can appreciate the painting while at the same time realizing, oh, that's not the real sunset. The real sunset is even more beautiful. That really spoke to me. Like whenever you said illusory, I wasn't quite sure of the difference, and for me, this analogy kind of speaks to it, that I can appreciate the beauty of the thing that's illusory. It's the painting, not the real thing, and at the same time realize that there's something that's more fullness, kind of like the analogy of the shadow. And also something that you said there really resonated with me when you said negation of the material is not in itself spiritual, and it reminds me of when Prabhupada says we're not like a vegetarian movement, we're prashadarian. Like just to be vegetarian, it's not in itself spiritual. Rhinoceros or monkeys or whatever, they're all vegetarian, and I mean, maybe individuals of them, maybe like the monkey that came to the class, maybe that one is spiritual, but like in general, just because they're vegetarian. And how I can apply this to my internal process is like, there's times when maybe I'm angry or I want to like blow off some steam on somebody, and I can like restrain that. And for me, like that doesn't make me compassionate just because I like restrain my anger. It's just like negation of what's there. And so this is how I can apply it in a practical sense to me, like just because I can restrain some quality that I don't appreciate doesn't inherently make me the opposite. It just makes it that I'm debt-free and I can work towards that thing. And I'm open to being corrected on this, but when we're talking about Brahman happiness, true spiritual happiness, material happiness, what I remember reading is material happiness is like a drop of water. Brahman happiness is like the water that's contained in the hoof print of a calf. And then true spiritual happiness is like an ocean.
And even the drop, when Prabhupada describes the drops that you're describing, he describes the drop as being the happiness that we achieve in a heavenly planet. That's what he says. So the happiness that we achieve in a heavenly planet, not on this, but in a heavenly planet, on a higher planetary system, is like a drop of water. And then the happiness from Brahman is superior to that, like the water in the hoof of the hoof print of this Africa. And then compared to the ocean of peace and bhakti.
Thank you.
I would like to understand more about you said, like we also have internal potency, and then you make some circles of whatever, which I am not familiar with the paradigm.
Yeah, it's I only read that in the light of Bhagavata. Yeah.
Anyway, I would like to, because you said that like if we connect with our internal potency, then we like kind of automatically connect with Krishna. So I want to understand that. Yeah, that's what Srila Prabhupada said, and so I've been impactful for me since I read that, and I've been trying to practice what that means. And so I encourage you to practice. And Prabhupada, 2 or 3 paragraphs before that, he was speaking about introspection. He used that word introspection, which is also very uncommon in Prabhupada's book, the word introspection. So that introspection is our internal energy. And if we everything, in my practice, I've been endeavoring to turn everything external to internal in order to connect with Krishna. And usually in that experience of that practice, I land in a prayerful mood. I land in a place where there is Krishna and me praying to Krishna. And that's success. That's complete success, because there, when I'm in a prayerful mood, I'm in connection with Krishna, and it's within the spiritual energy, within the devotional service, and within the internal energy of the Lord. Do you like to reveal an example? How does it look like?
I did that in one of my classes recently, and right now I don't have an example that could come to mind, but let's say in Bhakta is his example. I'm angry with someone. So I'm angry, and that's external. I'm angry with someone, I'm angry, and I have that, an energy of anger. And the Brahman realization will be, and already coming into the spiritual realm, is that I am experiencing anger and really allowing myself to be the experiencer of the anger. So that's right there. It's already coming from a platform, I am the soul, the Brahman realization. Really, if we do experience our experience and we come to a place like I am the experiencer, that's Brahman realization. You know, we can make it very complicated, but we also can simplify things. And then if I turn like, okay, I am experiencing anger, and Krishna, you're so kind to give me this anger, to realize how fallen I am and how far I am from you, then at that moment I'm connected with Krishna. And that's introspection, and I am with Krishna there, and Krishna is internal energy, and I'm communicating with Krishna. That's just, you know,
I'm going to
conjuncture.
practice.
So, and the practice of transforming everything external and internal, I found it very fascinating, very fascinating of an experience.
I thought to mention is we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, and the whole kind of story of how Srimad Bhagavatam got to be spoken illustrates this point. So, like the main speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam is Shukadeva Goswami, and he was Brahman realized. He was Brahman realized. To reference Gajendra, I don't see Gajendra there now, maybe he's there, but he might have boring. But there's several stories where impersonally realized people, personally realized spiritual practitioners, then they become attracted to the Bhagavatam. So it's described about the Bhagavatam. Amaramastramunam Nirgunti Apyu Krami Kravanti Hitu Kim Bhakti Itam Bhuta Guno Hari. So that describes that Shukadeva Goswami is completely Brahman realized. And yet he's attracted to the kirtan, he's attracted to Krishna dancing with the gopis, he's attracted to Krishna and the coward boy, he's attracted to these stories about Vidur and Uddhava. Because the Hare Krishna, Gajendra Prabhu, I saw you had your hand up, and I was actually I was just following up on the Mayavada's boring statement, and essentially your what you quoted Jivan Mukta, Aruya Krichana Pramparampada Patant Yadona Vichishwanandra. Essentially that verse says that even those who are personally realized, they get bored. Essentially what it says. It's like, okay, a lot of white light, okay. Yeah, okay. So it's like it's a relief, but so Shukadeva Goswami is just one of many examples, but a prime example. So he was impersonally realized. And then see that this is relevant because Mayavadis or some Brahmavadis that will go, it's like, okay, well, these are stories, maybe by reading them, you get some moral something. But Vidura would have been Krishna, the coward boys, the gopis, Mother showed. I mean, that's all Maya too. Maybe it's more sattvic Maya, but that's all Maya too. But the proof is no, because Shukadeva Goswami, he's accepted as fully and personally realized. No attraction to mundane romance or mundane adventure stories, but he's attracted to Krishna and the gopis. So that proves no, this is spiritual variety. This is spiritual music. This is spiritual dancing. This is spiritual adventure. This is even spiritual violence like that. Because otherwise, so the four Kumaras are another example. We mentioned them in the advanced course sometimes. Anyhow, the four Kumaras, and so they were impersonally realized. And then they so they can go wherever they want. So they travel these ancient personalities, and they travel as naked 5-year-old boys. And so when they went to Vaikuntha, and it's described that they were transformed from impersonally realized to devotees by just smelling a whiff of the fragrance of the tulasi flowers offered to the lotus feet of Vishnu. Just by fragrance, they transform to devotees, which means that, well, fragrance is material. No, it must be, they have no attraction to anything material. No attraction to anything. So that's spiritual fragrance. And so just wanted to share that aspect.
I just want to.
I think Ajendra did.
I'm sorry.
I thought he had the same.
There's still something I would like to say. And I appreciate like what from Farah and as he was saying, because they literally said some of the exact same things, exact same examples that I wanted to give. But it was tied, dear Govinda Prabhu, to that original, to that statement that you had made about the, there was the sort of the negation of material suffering as being happiness. But there's still something I feel I can say that might add to it that just examines a little deeper what's happening. And that is that, and Malini touched on a little bit, about being Brahman. And so it's like, well, we are Brahman, we are spiritual, we have that quality of Ananda. So we are spiritual. So it's not sort of just that the suffering is negated, it's what's there when the suffering is negated, and that's spiritual. So the part that I'm looking at it, and this relates to yoga, union, bhakti yoga. So if we're disconnected, if we're a separated spark, so we have our minute, our very, very minute quality as an individual spirit soul that is Ananda, that is that hoof print. And so when that's what we experience just ourselves in the pure Mayavad sense when we negate the material suffering. Bhakti yoga means union, it's to connect. And that's where that, activity is what's non-boring. It's that richness of the varieties of spiritual energy you were talking about. We have to make that bhakti yoga. We have to connect to the Supreme to experience that whole ocean and all those waves. And so that's the part I was wanting to parse a little more. The fact that we are that minute bit of Ananda, but it's through active devotional service that makes the yoga that connects us to that unlimited ocean.
Hare Krishna.
So there's nothing else, I guess. We can end here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai.
Sure. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
We're just Anitya. We can serve outside.